Hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Mark DeJesus here. I am your brother from another mother, bringing you insights for your healing and freedom journey, especially when it comes to mental, emotional, and relationship health. Today, what I want to do is talk to you about the important, necessary, needed experience of compassion in our lives and in our journey, especially when it comes to our mental health, because everyone is going through some kind of battle in their life. Everyone. Now, there may be some that are kind of denying what they're going through. There may be some that are drowning in what they're going through. Regardless of how you approach the situations that you're going through and the battles that you're facing, everybody has some kind of battle that we're up against. And what we are in need of is in need of experiencing compassion in how we see people, in how we see ourselves, and in how we view how God sees us. Because for so many of us as believers, we're learning to get renewed in the compassionate grace that God has towards us in our journey, because it makes a game-changing difference to experience the love, the kindness, and patience of God that moves with compassion towards us in our journey, and His grace flowing through that to empower us to navigate through some of the deep, challenging journeys that we face. And many of you have been through deep challenges, are going through deep challenges, and you're wondering how to navigate this, how to go through this. And then we're trying to look at how do we view other people. And I cannot emphasize this enough. It is so important that we anchor ourselves in the compassionate grace that God has towards us. So I want to talk a little bit about fighting mental health battles with compassion, because a lot of times we don't fight with compassion. We look at it through shame, and we feel very ashamed that we're even going through battles. We feel like we're the only ones going through it. We feel like there's something deeply wrong with us that sets us apart from others, in the sense of, man, we are our battle in mental health makes us unworthy of being loved or unworthy of being connected to others. It goes into all kinds of areas. We fight a lot of times with force. I got to get over this. I got to somehow fix this, right? And stress increases, fear, anxiety increases. We fall under condemnation, which is this accusatory cycle that keeps us in this. It's like we're trapped in a legal battle of being under a prosecution and constantly being found guilty. We shame ourselves, we blame, and then we project this in how we relate to other people. Because certainly Christians can be very, very harsh, condemning, and judgmental in how they come across to others. And it loses context in what God is seeking to do to heal and transform the hearts of people and bring healing and freedom to our lives. But do you find yourself kind of getting where you fight your battles with such force and pressure? Because we're like, I got to get better. I got to get better. And what we do is we skip around the love of God. It's like, no, I got to get better before I can connect to love. And it is a very, very big lie that we believe, when actually we need to move towards loving relationship, because that's what God is setting the table for us in our lives and in our journey. So why do we lack compassion? Now, this is just some of the reasons. This isn't a lot of them, but a couple that I want to bring out. Why do we lack compassion for others? Why do we struggle to experience compassion? I'd say at the top of the list is the speed of life. Nobody has time for this, because we're going at a rate. We're doing more and more and more and more and filling our lives. And those of you that are familiar with my materials, one of the first steps that I invite people to do is we got to make time and space for what's important. And that often involves, number one, slowing down, because our rate of life is just too fast to not pay attention to the life of the heart. And two, we often have to lessen and go smaller with what we're actually investing our energy into, because we're going too fast and we're spread out too thin. And so it taps away at our ability to walk with compassion, because compassion has a slower pace to it. Many people are just burnt out. They're just absolutely burnt out. They're burnt out with negativity, the news, what's going on in the world, people around, the shifting and changing times that we're living. We're all trying to adjust to it, what we've been through, what we're going through, family struggles, financial struggles, these struggles, right? It just taps out our emotions because we don't know how to balance out what we're feeling and what we're working through. Many are realizing our compassion is a struggle because we've not been taught. What does it look like to live compassionately? Did you see that modeled in your home growing up? Did you see it modeled in church lives? Did you see it modeled from mentors and people around you of how to be anchored in compassion in a healthy and fruitful way? No, many of us were taught forms of guilt or performance-based compassion where we could minister lovingly to people in a performance mode. But then once the performance is over, then we get to the real world life and all our irritation and all this just starts to inflame, right? Because we've not been taught what does it look like to live a compassionate life, not a ministry performance. A lot of times we lack compassion because we don't see it valued. We see people arguing in strife, and it's really more about being right in an argument than looking at things compassionately. It's more about telling people off. It's more about many of the battles and wars that go on, and we lose perspective of what it means to live in compassion, because compassion will often not always make us have to do something to fix. It's more about a posture and just how we see people and how we see a situation. And that's what I really want to encourage. It's about how we see things. It doesn't mean you have to go out now and solve everyone's problems and do all take on everybody's burdens for them. It's about how you see what people are going through, because compassion changes the lens in how we see ourselves and others. And that's what I want to bring out here, is that we lack compassion in how we see other people because we don't give it to ourselves. Many people recognize, well, I can be compassionate towards others, but man, what I give to others, I do not give to myself. And what I want to share with you is authentic living is giving out to others what you're cultivating in your own life. And so I've had to encourage so many people, and myself included. What does self-compassion look like? We've got to cultivate a posture towards ourselves that then we give out to others. Many people haven't connected to their own brokenness. So when they see other people's brokenness, they're quick to shame, judge, accuse, because they haven't had a sober look at their own brokenness. And we can't look at our own brokenness soberly without compassion, because then we're just going to drown. We're going to get more depressed. We're going to get more anxious. We're going to shame ourselves. And so what I want to bring out is the compassion of God. What it does is it welcomes God's love. It shapes how you relate to people. It forms how you relate to yourself. And what it does is it invites you into relationship. It's because it's in relationship that we are changed, relationship with God, relationship with people, and seeing ourselves in a new, refined way. That's primarily love's work. First and foremost is inviting into healthy relationship connection. It's being invited into a feast, being invited into a gathering. You are welcomed here. And then the patience and kindness of love. Love is patient. Love is kind. They set as the pillars of the power of God's love, because patience is what love can handle in life. Kindness is what love manifests and what it gives out. And this forms a compassionate view in how we see people and how we interact. But do you give this to yourself? Because many of you in your mental health journey, you're bypassing compassion and you're going to fix it mode. How do I get over this? How do I get rid of this? Because you have an animosity towards yourself. You look at yourself with such contempt because you see your battle as making you unlovable, disqualifying you from love. Rather than being a signal, mental health struggles are an invitation to learn deeper how to walk in the compassionate grace and love that God has for us. Of course, compassionate is not a bunch of things. And I get into that. You can check out my video called What Love Is Not. I have a whole series called What is Love? You can check that out too. Compassion is not self-pity. It's not looking at yourself self-loathing or victim thinking or woe is me. If you're being compassionate towards someone else and they tell you this is what I'm going through, and if you start spiraling, oh, it's just terrible. You're right. It's so worse. It's awful, right? That's not compassion. You're taking what they're saying and making it worse. And many of us don't know how to be loving towards ourselves because of our brokenness and woundedness. We turn towards ourselves with animosity, with depression, with loathing, rather than turning with compassion which sees things in context. We take in the journey empathetically. We take in understanding. There's been battles we went through. Boy, if we had this perspective on our lives, it would be a game changer. It would change our relationships. It would change many of our patterns, right? Compassion's not solving people's problems. It's not having the perfect answer. Many people say, when I'm talking to somebody else and they're sharing their mental health battle, I don't know what to say. And I counsel back, it's not about saying the right thing that's instructional or solving. It's not even you going into a whole ramble about your struggles, right? Because sometimes we can do that too. It's about listening. And just, I find in compassion, we lovingly become curious to learn how it makes them feel, to learn what influenced some of the things that have happened in their life, in their journey. And we listen with open heart to take in, because I find a big part of the mental health healing journey is actually experiencing nurturing, loving understanding. I find if I look back at some of my toughest battles, it was somebody who just listened and just reminded me that I was loved and I'm okay. Now, they didn't fix it. They took what I was sharing. And it's like, I understand. I get it. It wasn't like a quick solve or what's wrong with you or that's weird. Compassion's not solving people's problems or having all the perfect answers. It's just being empathetic, and you learn how to have empathy by asking questions that help you learn what they're going through. I want to take in what's been happening. Tell me about it. And I'm going to have a listening ear, and I want to walk with you. And love forms often the best, because many times it's not about what we say, it's about listening, but love will form sometimes some of the most powerful things that maybe need to be said in that moment to extend compassion. Compassion's also not taking on burdens for people. We have so much codependency and guilt-ridden relationships. We get overwhelmed with carrying the world's problems and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about either. What I want to just bring it down to is compassion is about posture. How you see yourself and how you see the world around you. Because compassion helps us to see things in a healthy context, right? We all need context. You're going through anxiety, going through depression, OCD, you're going through bipolar, you're going through some kind of battle in trauma from your history or addictions. What we need is compassion to set the stage. Without compassion, the stage is set in chaos, in judgment, in shame, in hopelessness. Compassion settles things, and now we can see things in context. And many of you are losing context of your journey because compassion is being pushed away or blocked. When I'm in compassion, we can see ourselves and where we are in a healthy perspective. If you find yourself spiraling, the first way to bring yourself back is to access nurturing compassion. All right, it's okay, I'm here. This is where I'm at. I accept this is where I'm at. Now what? What does it look like to embrace love in this moment? Because then what happens is, like I put here on the slide, we can learn what we need. Without compassion, you don't know what you need. But in compassion, you learn what you actually need, and you can patiently take the steps that you need to take in your journey. And what we need oftentimes is just a posture of compassion that helps us go, okay. It's like it clears up the lens a bit. And it helps us to settle just a little bit. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it nurtures us to take a deep breath. Now, in a lot of my current work, I have been emphasizing the battleground of OCD. My latest book, The OCD Healing Journey, covers getting to the heart of our obsessive and compulsive struggles. And in my teaching work, I talk about the problem is not the problem and getting more to the heart of what's happening, not chasing whatever you're spinning about. And I bring out these distortions, right? In mental health battles, there's usually distortions in play that we need to learn and begin to uncover. And in OCD, these are the 7 distortions that one will battle. They cycle and happen all at the same time. Now, what I want to do is I want to use the example of compassion to address this. What does it look like to address the 7 distortions with compassion? Let's take a moment and look at this. With compassion, let's talk about perfectionism for a moment. It releases us. Compassion releases you from the pressure of just right, the mentality of just right, never enough, just right, never enough, just right, never enough, right? Because that's always in play in OCD. Something is not just right, and it has to be fixed, and it's never enough. And what it does is compassion directs us to unconditional love, not perfection. We're going to have to get off of the dead-end wagon that is going downhill, that is leading to nowhere. And many of us have to take that leap off. It feels like a big jump, right? Into unconditional love. What does unconditional love say? I am inviting you into relationship. I am not saying go get fixed and then you have relationship, because that's how most of us live. We do that with God. We do that with ourselves. We do that in relationship. Compassion changes the interaction. With compassion, we embrace doubt and uncertainty instead of always trying to fix and solve uncertainty. We're always living in these control mechanisms, and we get lost in these deep dives of trying to solve every uncertain doubt that rises up. And we embrace the reality that we are not in control, and that we're not going to feed fear, and we are not the masters of. We are not the master of the earth, and we recognize how big God is, and we recognize our humanity, and we're just learning to trust. And learning to trust actually leads us deeper into love, because we learn to let go of having to solve every doubt and uncertainty that rises up. And for OCDers, they feel they must solve every area of doubt and uncertainty that rises up. With compassion, we learn to develop renewed perspectives about our struggles and our thoughts. And we embrace a kind and patient interpretation. Now, I talk about the distorted meaning of your thoughts, which is a big, big battleground. It's not the thoughts you have, it's how they get interpreted that really creates the problem. And OCDers and many believers, many people in general, interpret their emotions in ways that are inaccurate and unfruitful. They're not helpful for their journey. And so interpretation's key. How do you have a healthy interpretation? Letting compassion bring that. That brings out a perspective of what you're going through. When we live in compassion, threats are lessened. Where is threat being brought about? We have these threats that we got to solve these thoughts or the dangers. We have this dread, and we have this sense of the sky is falling over this issue, and I must solve it. And what that's bringing out is our need for love, to practice the stability and groundedness of God's unconditional love and the power of his love to settle us where we are. We can, in compassion, we can let go of the intense pressure of responsibility that we carry. For many OCDers and perfectionists, Jesus is calling out to you today, all you OCDers and perfectionists who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. I've got this. Learn to rely on the work that I'm doing in your life, and let go of that false sense of responsibility that you carry, to feel that you've got to carry the weight of all these things on your shoulders, and all it's doing is adding more weight and more burden. See what compassion does? Compassion has a work of letting go of burdens rather than taking on. Compassion, and this is a big threshold that many of us need to cross through more and more and more. With compassion, we learn, okay, I've got to admit my control issues. I react to life through control, through pressure, and that control is driven by fear. And we realize it's time to release them as a way of survival. Love teaches us how to let go of these control issues we carry. And then lastly, in addressing the seventh distortion about emotions, compassion gives us room to develop healthy emotional responses and how to work through our emotions. So when we feel sad or grief, or even we're feeling depressed or feeling somewhat anxious or stressed, we don't have a hostile reaction. We learn through compassion, the emotions are meant to be worked through, not just fixed and scooted away. Because compassion teaches us we're going to go on a journey. Like David said when he said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you're with me. And compassion invites us to the proximity of God who is near, who'll never leave us nor forsake us. and this is a journey that we're on. Which one of these do you find to be helpful in your life, in your journey? Which sticks out to you the most? If you find that you're navigating obsessive compulsive struggles, get yourself a copy of the OCD Healing Journey. If you're needing help in navigating through issues of the heart and navigating through emotions in a healthy way, get the Heart Healing Journey, awakening, healing, and transforming your life in dynamic and powerful ways. If this video was a blessing to your life and your journey, would you do me a favor? Click that like button. Also, subscribe. Go to markdejesus.com, where I give regular updates to those on the email list. You can also get a free download book today, Experiencing God's Love as Your Father. Isn't that amazing? And if this is a blessing, consider a one-time donation or become a regular monthly supporter to the ministry materials. Well, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll be back with some more insights for your healing and freedom journey to help support your mental, emotional, and relationship health. But in the meantime, I'm out.